The lesson I am sharing today is one that I use when I introduce my English 111 11th graders to observational writing. And this is sort of like a preview of what observational writing is, something I use to get them into the mindset of how to conduct really good observations and then how to turn those observations into a fluid, detailed essay. The materials needed for this particular lesson would be a copy of this PowerPoint that anyone could use to modify for their needs, access to Padlet for the teacher and also for each member of the group. So whether this was like a professional development, teachers would need access to the Padlet, or if this is something that students would do in class, then they would need to sign into Padlet. A large pad paper, and each student or participant would need a sheet of this. Each student would also need a marker, and then you would need also a timer. So to begin this lesson, what I do is I ask students what they think observational writing is. And we come up as a group with a working definition of observational writing. And we talk about what observations are and how they are best made, and then how you could then take those ideas and turn them into an essay that flows, that is organized, and that covers everything that they have observed. I really like this quote, learn to see what you are looking at, because so often we see the things around us, but do we really notice them? Do we really pay attention to the specific nuances that make texture, for example, or the specific things that we smell or hear in a background? And so I try to tell students that they are really looking deeply at their topics, and I try to encourage them to observe the whole atmosphere, everything, all the surroundings, all the smells, all the sights, all the sounds, and those sorts of things. And so I really like this quote by Paolini here, and I think it gives the student something to kind of pause and think about before they conduct their first mini observation. Now we do what I call the I Spy activity. I laugh and tell students that they're going to be stalkers for about 10 minutes, and they laugh and they look at me like I'm crazy, but it's a way to engage them and to do something kind of different in class. So, again, if you use this at a professional development to teach observational writing, or if, as I use it in my classroom, what you do is you have students choose a classmate to kind of spy for about 5 or 6 minutes. And I set a timer for this. I tell students just choose one person, focus on their clothing, focus on their mannerisms, their facial expressions, movement, maybe nervous tics or habits. Basically, really observe the person well and jot out notes. And so they kind of spy on each other, and it's really funny because we do this in total silence. And so every now and again someone will laugh, or someone will drop a pencil, or a bell will sound, or someone, or someone's phone will vibrate, and they get a case of the giggles, which is really cool because then they can observe that on each other. So it's really a fun activity, and you can modify the time here. I kind of modeled this to be a 30-minute to 40-minute lesson, but I have allowed students to do these observations for longer than 5 or 6 minutes. This is just up to the teacher. Afterward, I set the timer again, and I have the students take their ideas that they jotted out, the observations that they jotted out about the person they spied on, and they take those ideas and now flesh them out into a short essay. I don't require students to necessarily format this essay into paragraphs. I'm not really looking for format here as much as I'm looking for content. And so taking those ideas that they jotted out quickly and then turning those into more fully fleshed statements using specific verbs, using specific adjectives and nouns, words that really capture the person that they observed. And so for about 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, I have students take those ideas they jotted out and then turn them into this short essay. I don't look again at grammar, formatting, and those kinds of things here. I look more at the content of what they have to say, what their observation skills were actually like. After this, I have students kind of read through their work and look at the words they chose, the descriptive words that they chose. And we talk about the importance of sensory details here, how to best appeal to a reader's senses through description, through descriptive language. We talk about how important word choice is, and that you don't necessarily need this huge, flowery, poetic, statement. Sometimes you just need the right word. And so, for example, if a student noticed, if you look here on the pad, if you notice that a student said a classmate was wearing a green sweater, green's a pretty basic adjective. We all know what color green is, but you could take that one step further. What shade of green was it? Was it Kelly green, moss green, lime green, hunter green, or some other shade? So for a chalk talk, what you could do is you start with the basic idea in the center of the pad or the sheet of paper. Hear the word green. You have students get together in groups of 4 or 5 to do this, and they toss out ideas. How could we say the word green better? And each student would take a marker and jot out their initial ideas for the chalk talk. And you see how within just a matter of 10 or 12 seconds here, you've got a lot of good words, much better words than just green. Another example, if you had the word write, they're observing a classmate and that classmate is writing out notes. Instead of using that basic verb write, you really want to capture the essence of that action. Are they writing it? Or could you say they're jotting out ideas? They're quickly scribbling ideas onto a piece of paper. They're sketching out their ideas. Or, they're putting pen to paper. They're penning their ideas out. There's a better way to say just write. So, a way to try this together with a group, and again, you could do this professional development or you could do it in your classroom, is to create a Padlet. And if you're not familiar with Padlet, basically you have one author who posts a question or a concept or an idea. And then others can come in and add on to it. And so you have kind of like this collective, almost like a bulletin board of ideas. And so here, if you click on the hyperlink, you're taken into a Padlet that I created. And what I want to do is I want students to come in and look at this basic word cold. Let's say I was writing an observation, and throughout my observation, I noticed that the room felt cold. Okay, cold is an adjective, but isn't there a better way to say this? So everyone who would be logged into this Padlet would come in, and then they would be able to make a comment by clicking the plus sign. Maybe instead of cold, it's frigid in the classroom. Maybe instead of cold, it's chilly in the classroom. Cold is a good word, but you can say it better. If it's really cold, it's frigid. If it's just a little cold, it's chilly. So you see how there's power in words and power in choosing the right word, especially for descriptive writing. Padlets are super easy to make, and they're also it's also free to do a basic Padlet. So it's a great way to get the class involved. And what's really cool is if you have the Padlet pulled up at the front of the room on a smart board, you can see everybody's ideas as they pop up at one time, which is really neat. So you have, in this case, a chalk talk that's not just in a small 5 or 6 person group. You have a chalk talk that could involve 20 kids or more. And to see all those ideas pop up at one time is really neat, especially when you see the kids make connections with each other and who had similar words and things like that. Then what could happen is you could have the students, or again, if it's a professional development group, they could form groups of 5 to 6. Each one would bring their large sheet of pad paper with them and a marker. They would read through their own writing, the own short essay that they just finished, and they would choose a basic verb or adjective or adverb or whatever it is that they want to choose from what they wrote, and they would write that in the center of their pad paper. And then they would offer each other help. So as a group, you have basically 5 or 6 chalk talks going on at one time, and you can pass the pads of paper around. But what you're getting is this generated idea, this feedback immediately from your peers in a really quick way. And it shows you how you can make your writing better without laboring over it, without stressing yourself to find the right word. Because when you're working in a group of 5 or 6 people, you're getting all of their ideas. You're getting, and everyone is so diverse. Everyone has their own way of speaking, their own tone, style, and mood. That you could throw a simple word out there like look, or a word like hot, and within, a matter of 30 seconds, you have 5 or 6 different adjectives or synonyms for the words that you wrote that say it better than what you have originally said it, which I think is a really cool thing to do. This is a really simple writing exercise. The students like it though because it's fun. They feel a little uncomfortable at first, but I tell my students sometimes you have to be uncomfortable and try new things in order to really learn. And so they are active observers while they are being observed. And then they are, writers because they're quickly taking those ideas and turning it into a short essay. And then they're editors. And they're peer editors at that, and that they are able to work together to come up with better ideas. And this is a fun activity. Again, it could be a 30-minute warm up to a whole unit on observational writing, or you could extend observation times. You could even take students to a different environment, so that they have to really look at things. You could do this activity outside if it's a pretty day. You could do this activity in the gym. You could take your students to the library. You could do so many different things with this that you could extend this to be a fuller lesson. I have done this as a 30-minute warm up. I've also done this as a 90-minute class exercise. And so honestly, you can adapt it to what your needs are.